今天晚上11点，只在公视13频道。您正在收看公共电视。
This is the story of a silent revolution that affects every person on the planet. It's about how we've become complicit in a deal that's reshaping our world. 20 years after its creation, the World Wide Web offers us unprecedented free access to information.
The benefit of a freely available source of all the world's information that literally touches every human being who can get anywhere near an internet is phenomenal.
The web is about connecting humanity, right? The web is humanity connected.
But the web's gift comes at a price. We pay in a commodity perhaps more precious than gold, with intimate information about ourselves.
People have to think more carefully about what information they want to put out and how it should be used.
I think that people are only beginning to understand what it might mean to post things about yourself on the internet.
You should lead your life differently. You should not post a photo. You probably shouldn't even take a photo that you don't want spread. I would advise against sex tapes.
I've spent the last 10 years researching and writing about the web's virtual revolution. This film is about perhaps the most profound and disturbing shift in values that it's brought about and what that means for all of us. It's about how the thoughts and desires that we express on the web are being traced, tracked, and traded in pursuit of profit.
The product online is not the content. The product online is you.
There's a risk-reward ratio here, and for us the reward is so great that whatever the risk is, we try and contain it and understand it.
This is the story of the individual, moral, and social cost of free, and whether that is a price worth paying.
This is West Point. For over 200 years, the academy here has trained United States Army's elite military leaders. This is where MacArthur, Eisenhower, and Schwarzkopf all learned the art of war. In the 21st century, cadets are being trained not just in battlefield tactics and grand strategy, but in how to deal with a threat much closer to home. The web is now part of their curriculum.
You've all heard of Trojans? It basically puts your computer under the control of someone else.
Lieutenant Colonel Greg Conti wants his cadets to understand how the web makes both governments and the people who use it exceptionally vulnerable.
And numbers vary, but anywhere.
The web's one of the most popular technologies in the history of mankind. Every day a new company comes online offering new products, new services, and the tools are very compelling and they're very powerful, but what we're doing is really disclosing an unprecedented amount of information about ourselves to third parties, and that makes me very, very concerned. Digital information is slippery, and once it's out there, it moves, and you can't put the genie back into the bottle once it's out there.
Are we being naive about the amount of information that we're putting online?
We all want something for nothing. So every website we go to, every shiny new tool or service that's out there on the web, many people flock to it. And we need to consider, as we're using those tools, what are we giving away in return? for this free product or service that we're getting? What are the risks involved, both on what we're giving away and the fact that the service may disappear tomorrow or may be bought by another company. So we might like their mascot now and we trust them and we like the colors of their logo, but they might not be the same company tomorrow.
"20 years on from its invention, the web confronts us with a huge dilemma that's only now becoming fully apparent. Our everyday web use remains overwhelmingly free. We read news for free, we do searches for free, and we connect with friends and family for free. Or so we think. Few of us realize just how we are paying."
How much would you charge to let a stranger read your personal diary? How much would it cost them to find out your religious, political, or sexual preferences, or where your children go to school? More than money can buy? But we give away exactly this kind of information routinely every day, and we're doing it on an enormous scale. In a month, users around the world make about 76 billion searches on Google for free. In a day, we post up 3 million pictures or videos to share with friends on Flickr for free. In a month, an estimated 350 million of us browse through the world's tens of millions of blogs for free. But now look at it the other way around. And you'll see that free is an illusion. Every month, Google gathers billions of search terms that help them refine their search system and sell highly targeted advertising. Every day, Flickr receives 3 million pictures or videos next to which they can place advertising. Every month, some blogs allow advertising companies to plant a tracking device known euphemistically as a cookie on our computers that reveal our interests to commercial networks so they can send us more relevant web advertising.
The Silicon Valley entrepreneurs, I think they are the rubber balance of the 21st century, but their manner of presenting their ideas and their power is much cleverer, more sophisticated than the 19th century. But I think in 100 or 200 years, when we look back at the Googles and the YouTubes and the Yahoos, we will see people very similar to the Carnegies and the Rockefellers and the Stanfords who drove the Industrial Revolution.
We are being judged as we're walking around the internet by who the cookies say we are and who we declare we are by our Facebook profile or our Twitter stream or what information we put into whatever website we might go to. This is a societal shift not unlike when we moved from the farms to the village, from the village to London. And all of a sudden we had to develop a social system that understood how we lived cheek by jowl in crowded areas.
The reality is, online life is a trade. You pay for a free web with the currency of information about who you are as a user and what your clicks across the web say you're interested in. Every day, in this way, we are handing over the minutiae of our lives in exchange for a free and convenient online space.
To understand how we've become consumed within the web, we need to go back 16 years and look at big business's early attempts to colonize the online world. A story that begins bizarrely with a pizza. In 1994, Pizza Hut pioneered web commerce by taking orders online. It was called PizzaNet. This virtual revolution in fast food happened here in sleepy Santa Cruz, California, which back then had one of the most wired-up populations on Earth. Now, ordering pizzas online seems obvious and routine, but at the time, this was a huge novelty.
What becomes clear when talking about PizzaNet is the incredulity with which people treated this new innovation. I mean, it even made the front page of the business section of a national newspaper. As recently as 16 years ago, people just didn't know if online commerce would work or not.
The web had originally been created by scientists who wanted to share information between themselves. Commercial data traffic was outlawed. Back then, the web and money just weren't seen as things that went together.
The spirit of the web at the beginning was of people working, as it were, under the bedclothes with a light on. People working after other people had gone home and installing a web server and sending me an email saying, oh, by the way, at the end of work today, I installed this web server, I put some photographs on it, hope you like it.
It seemed like a brave new world. It seemed like a new democracy. It seemed like a new way of people coming together.
There was this other dimension to human experience, which is really hard to relate to today, that had nothing to do with money.
But by 1994, the United States Congress had lifted the injunction on web commerce. The web was suddenly open for business. People were now coming online in numbers. They still expected a free space, but commerce saw a new opportunity to make massive profits. While the early web was rooted in academia and the counterculture of California, the web's first great commercial venture had its roots in New York, with a dream of a whole new interactive relationship with customers.
I think the thing that we got right is a true obsessive focus on the customer experience.
Amazon has become the world's most popular online retailer. It has a customer base of 124 million people worldwide, buying products that range from its core business, books, to anything from TVs to food to clothes. In 1994, Jeff Bezos was an analyst for a New York hedge fund. He was struck by commercial opportunities suddenly being opened up by the web.
Web usage was growing at 2,300% a year, and I had never seen anything grow that quickly. And even though it was clear that sort of baseline usage of the web was very small, most people hadn't heard of the web in 1994, it was also pretty clear that anything growing that fast, though tiny today, is going to be ubiquitous tomorrow.
He had a very, I think, Napoleonic scale to what he wanted to do from the beginning. But meanwhile, the step one was making the bookstore. And that in and of itself was a very unusual undertaking.
Bezos realized that the fundamental problem with conventional bookstores is their size. This one, for example, can hold about 5,000 titles, so no matter how well run it is, the choice will always be limited.
What you could do online that you could never do in a physical store is build a bookstore with complete selection, universal selection. So that became the founding dream of Amazon.
Where Amazon blazed a trail, others would follow. The commercialization of the web was the beginning of a revolution in shopping and a fundamental shift in the web's values.
The rate of growth was astounding. If you needed any other reassurance that you were onto something huge, the company was just taking off like nothing else in the history of retail.
The global, instant, and free space had become a global, instant, and free market. All around the world, entrepreneurs seized upon a way of making a killing.
We were reinventing our entrepreneurialism, our kind of creativity. And maybe there was a sense that some of the older industries were changing. This was a time when youth and vibrancy and dynamism were going to be celebrated in this country in a kind of US-style way.
This was a very exciting time. I think sort of excitement was justified.
Between 1995 and 2000, over 20 million .com names were registered.
In a very few short years, we've got to the spectacle of billionaire teenagers with barely descended testicles spraying the stock exchange. Who can say what the e-world will be like in another 5 years?
There's optimism that always attends such a bright new technology and the future that it seems to beckon. It didn't last long. It didn't last long with me, not because I'm cynical, I think, but because history has given us enough examples.
The brave new web became synonymous with printing money.
Investor stocks have gone up an estimated $1.25 trillion.
Sales online have doubled since last year.
The 90s were insane.
you were having just buckets of money poured over your head.
In recent weeks, all the stock indexes have rallied to new records, led by the incredible surge